All right, welcome into Boston Celtics Today by Chat Sports. I am Chase Sr., and as we know, during the NBA offseason, the Celtics are going to be really busy with trying to upgrade their roster. One of the big questions, what are they going to do with Kemba Walker, and can they free themselves of that monster contract? So on today's show, we're going to explore a potential Kemba Walker for Kristaps Porzingis trade that would kind of help out both parties, both in Boston as well as Dallas. So let's break all of this down here on the channel. So Kemba Walker in his last 2 years with the Boston Celtics has failed to hold up in consecutive seasons because of those lingering knee issues that he seemed to have suffered leading into the All-Star break 2 seasons ago. And there have also been a lot of questions about his offensive fit next to stars Jason Tatum as well as Jaylen Brown. Here's the big kicker, though, and the big problem for Brad Stevens now that he's gone from head coach to general manager. Kemba Walker isn't the same player that he was with the Charlotte Hornets. He's not the player that the Celtics expected to trade for. And his contract the next 2 seasons, it is not good. In fact, it's one of the worst across the entire NBA. This upcoming season, he's on the books for $36 million. The season after that, $37.5 million. And I talk about Kemba Walker from his Charlotte Hornets days. He was one of the best guards, especially scoring the basketball across the entire league. He was brilliant in 2018-19. This is what Danny Ainge expected when he traded for Kemba Walker. 25.5 points per game, field goal percentage, totally doable at 43 plus, 3-point percentage, not great, but there's so much value there, and when Kemba Walker is cooking, the man is really cooking. He did all of that a couple of seasons ago in 82 games. And we talk about those knee issues continuing to be problematic for Kemba Walker. They have the last 2 years. Kept him out a couple games in that Brooklyn Nets first-round playoff series that resulted in a first-round outage. And in his past 2 years, his only 2 years with the Celtics, he's only played 99 games. Of course, 2 years ago, that season cut short because of the coronavirus and the NBA bubble. But Kemba Walker, after the All-Star break, was still out because of that knee issue. And in his past 2 years, the production hasn't been there like it was in 2018-19 with the Charlotte Hornets. So you're looking now at a player who is really expensive, his contract closing in on close to $40 million. His production has dipped. He's not the same guy physically. While the raw numbers this past year are pretty solid, you can just see that Kemba Walker just lacks that explosiveness and that quick step, which has resulted in his step-back moves not being as lethal, him getting to the cup not as fast. His fit is clunky next to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and that contract is just so prohibitive if the Celtics do want to make some roster upgrades this offseason so that they can get out of being this 500 team that they were this past year. Yes, I understand the injury and COVID issue is a big reason for that, but there's no doubt that the roster certainly needs help. So do you want the Boston Celtics to trade Kemba Walker this offseason? It would certainly be a big splash if Brad Stevens does pull the trigger. Get into the comments, let me know, and get your votes in. This is an interactive YouTube channel. We love hearing back from all of you watching. Type T for yes, they should trade him. Type K for keep. One of the players that Kemba Walker could realistically be dealt for, Kristaps Porzingis. Why is that? Both of these guys have underperformed the last 2 years. And like Kemba Walker, Kristaps Porzingis' cap hit, it's not good for the Dallas Mavericks, and it's very close in line with Kemba's. Cap hit this upcoming season of $33.8 million. The year after that, $36 million even. And what do you know? The Boston Celtics need a big man, and could he just fill that role, but also be a better fit than Kemba Walker? So the reasons why this trade, Kemba Walker for Kristaps Porzingis, makes sense, their salaries are almost identical, so both teams know that going into this potential trade. Both players also have injury issues because ever since Kristaps Porzingis hurt his knee with the New York Knicks, those injuries have continued to surface over time. Both fill a need for the other team. For Kristaps on the Celtics, they need a big man who can stretch the floor a little bit, be a better fit than Kemba. For Luka Doncic, that fit along Kristaps is just a little bit clunky, and they need a playmaking score. That's what Kemba Walker can bring to the table, and both of these franchises, the Celtics as well as the Dallas Mavericks, both have pressure to win right now. Mavericks have Luka Doncic, Celtics have Jaylen Brown as well as Jason Tatum. They have to capitalize on these windows right now. Now, Kristaps Porzingis, you look at his numbers this past year, And Dallas Mavericks go out in that 7-round series to the Los Angeles Clippers. Kristaps Porzingis was not good in that series, and I don't think he was even as good as these numbers on your screen right now. But the raw numbers are pretty solid. And could these numbers translate on a roster with Brown and Tatum? 20-plus points per game, nearly 9 rebounds, still shooting an efficient nearly 48% from the floor. And for a 7-plus footer to shoot nearly 38% on threes, about 5 or 6 attempts per game, that's pretty good. So are the Mavericks going to move forward with Kristaps and try to make this duo with him and Luka Doncic work? Well, according to ESPN's Tim McMahon, Kristaps Porzingis might want out, and he's been frustrated with his role being in the shadow of Luka, who I think is a top 10 player in the league at this point. This is what Tim McMahon had to say. Porzingis has been frustrated, often feeling like an afterthought than a co-star. Okay, I think we're going to continue to monitor this. It works financially, it works in terms of fit, and I think Kristaps with the Mavericks, Kemba with the Celtics, it just hasn't worked out, so both organizations would like to move on, and both players possibly would like fresh starts elsewhere. Would you make this trade for my Celtics fans watching right now? Kristaps Porzingis for Kemba Walker. Type Y in the comment section for yes. Type N for no. Get your votes in right now. I think I would pull the trigger on this deal if I'm Brad Stevens for all of the reasons that I mentioned. And man, it would certainly be fascinating if a deal like this does go down this offseason, because I do think it would benefit both parties as well as both players. Celtics Today is made possible today thanks to our friends at Newsbreak. They are a massive supporter of what we do here at Chat Sports, and I can honestly tell you it's the best app that I have on my phone right now, and an app that I use every single morning. So if you want to download it for free, because who doesn't like things for free? I mean, come on now. This is what I want you to do. Get into the comment section down below and just type C in the comments. Spam C. C for the Celtics. I will hit you with the download link, and you will be able to download the Newsbreak app for free. More reasons to download it. It supports the show and what we do here at Chat Sports, so you can continue to give us beer money as well as food money. Everything that you need is on one single feed. I'm talking local news and weather, politics, pop culture and food, crime, and you're able to stay informed and get free knowledge, because let's be honest, who has time to sit down and watch a 30-minute newscast when you can pull up the Newsbreak app and just get everything on one single feed? So comment C in the comment section. I will hit you with that download link, and you get the Newsbreak app for free. Celtics made a massive front office splash last week when Danny Ainge decided to retire as the president of basketball operations, and the even bigger surprise was the fact that Brad Stevens went from being head coach of this franchise to stepping in for Danny Ainge and being the new president of basketball operations and the general manager of the Boston Celtics. What a post to be able to hold. And we know that this is a huge offseason after what was a very frustrating year for Celtics fans. Finished the season 500. They were out in the first round, outed by the lethal Brooklyn Nets, and the 500 record, despite the injuries and COVID issues, just not good enough. Is Brad Stevens long for being a front office executive? I mean, he just took the post last week, but Basketball Insider Jeff Goodman doesn't think he's going to be the general manager of this franchise for that long. This is what he had to say recently on a radio appearance. I think Brad Stevens coaches a year from now. I think somebody goes after him and he decides like, yeah, this was cool. I gave it a shot. I just don't see Brad being long for this. I think he'll miss coaching. That's what he's really good at. Not that he can't be good at this, but I've got some reservations about him as kind of a general manager of sorts. Jeff Goodman, he's plugged in, well-informed with the Boston Celtics organization. For him to say that, I think it's more of an opinion. But let's be honest, Brad Stevens, throughout his tenure with the Celtics, 2 conference finals appearances, has been able to develop Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. He was linked to some of the major college openings across the country. UNC, Indiana, decides to go from coach to front office executive. Is he long for this? I don't know. What do you think? Over under 2 years for Brad Stevens as the Celtics general manager. Type O for over, meaning he'll hold that post for more than 2 years. Type U for under. Get your votes in and let me know. As for who could maybe take Brad Stevens' role as the head coach of this franchise, Brian Scalabrine has an idea in mind. It's not Becky Hammon. It's Kara Lawson, current head coach of the women's basketball team at Duke. Has some familiarity with the Boston Celtics. She was one of the first women in NBA history to be hired as an NBA assistant head coach after Brad Stevens brought her onto his staff. So she joined the Celtics organization back in 2019, then took the head Duke coaching role in 2020, and has done a pretty good job with the Blue Devils. Now, I talk about Brian Scalabrine mentioning her as the candidate. This isn't for clicks. This isn't a hot take. He is doubling down on this, and for a guy who's well plugged into this organization as well, just like Jeff Goodman is, who's beloved by Celtics fans for helping bring a championship to Boston back in 2008 over the hated Lakers, for him to say this, I'm putting stock in it. I think they're going to hire Kara Lawson, Brian Scalabrine says. I know the organization thinks that she's unbelievable. I know that the players respect her. I don't even want to go down the road of saying this would be a historic hire. I think she might just be the most qualified for the job. When you think about these players and who they already know, and you're bringing in somebody that Brad respects and the players respect, I mean, it makes the most sense. Brad Stevens maybe hiring his former assistant, Kara Lawson, and Brian Scalabrine is going all in. I'm not sure when Becky Hammon or Kara Lawson get hired as head coaches. Maybe it happens this NBA offseason. But I think at some point soon, let's say within the next 5 years, we are going to see an organization hire a female as the first head coach in the history of the NBA. Is it going to be Kara Lawson? She will be in this mix for this head coaching role. We will see, and only time will tell, but that would certainly be fascinating, and I think from day one, she would be able to demand respect from the locker room. If you love the Boston Celtics, hey, subscribe to Celtics Today and let this be your off-season hub for everything that's happening concerning this franchise. Either hit that big red button down below or go to youtube.com/CelticsTV and subscribe to Celtics Today by Chat Sports as we get closer and closer to 6,000 subscribers.